So who can tell me how can I initialize an array in JavaScript? Let's say that I want to create an array with the numbers from number 1 to number 9. I want an array to have those values inside. So I'm gonna call the array var numbers. No, man.
PHP is the same.
It is the same.
Is the same.
Okay. So what should I do? Curly brackets or square brackets? Square brackets, and then?
Inside like strings.
Okay.
Numbers.
Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. And if I put, for example, like this, 3 and then 9 and then 3. Does it work?
No,
Yes.
because you have two semicolons.
Two commas.
Okay, who says there will be an error? Ivan is very sure. Bogdan also.
No?
Mi dispiace. There's a hole, only there's a hole in that position. So that's an array. Let's see i miei numeri. And you can see what empty in the third position. No, in the third position, okay? So as within an array, now let's create another variable, var first array. And I put like this, new array. Does it work?
Yes.
Okay, it works. And if I put like this,
No.
you know.
JavaScript is case sensitive.
Okay, it's case sensitive. Oh, great. Array is not defined. And now,
This is what.
It will call function.
No.
Again, array is
function
small.
and this can be class. No.
okay, could be a class. So this one would be what? The constructor of the function. Okay, so if I said first array is empty, okay, because the function was also empty. So I can assign also a function to a value, but we're going to study function later on. So just to let you know that if I create a function with that name, I can assign it. Now, second question, var second array, and I put new array, and I say 5. What would I have inside second array?
5 empty.
Okay, any other solution?
Just 5
Just the number 5.
as a member of an array.
Okay, the Java guy wins. Okay, only 5 empty slots. So it's like you are reserving spaces for 5 values. It doesn't make any sense because you can push more values inside and there's no problem to define, to first reserve memory for any quantity of value. It doesn't matter. If you don't have the initial values, I never assign the quantity of values that I want to reserve. It doesn't make any sense. But if I want to know how many items are inside second array, there's also this property length like in a string, and I have 5. And if I create an empty array, let's say third array, and
Var.
okay, var, I always use the short syntax. I never use the constructor like that. I use always the literal syntax. I'm going to see also for object, I prefer to use the literal syntax. Okay, if I verify the length of the third array, is 0. Okay, that's the only difference, that if you preserve values, you reserve values passing a number to the constructor of array. If you use a cycle for a for loop for, let's say, var I equals 0, okay, and let's put here the array is second array. No, me cago en la mierda. Second array. Where is the console? No, second array, was it empty or no? No.
Second is Second
was with
No,
let's
5 empties.
let's put something. Let's put test here. Let's see, second array. There was 5, but I'm cycling for let's put an alert so we are sure. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. But if we output the content of the array, put in the placeholder here, second array I, undefined, 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 undefined. Okay, so we have 5 undefined elements. If we do the same thing but for third array, third, okay, third, nothing, because the length is 0. Now a tricky question. Second array dot length. I'm gonna override this property now. So what about the empty spaces that I have inside? Do we still have those empty spaces? Okay, let's see if we can cycle again the second array. Okay, we destroyed the array. If we reset the length of the array, even if we have some data inside, if we put, for example, second array equals, and we override the content with some value, okay, and then I override the length. If I cycle again second array, nothing. Okay, so be careful with length, because even if you have values inside the array and then you erase the length, you put 0 as a length, you are resetting the array. So let me see what else I can remember about array. Never trust the length to see if there is an element inside the array. This is the example. This example is going to be the contrary. I'm going to change the length to 7, for example. And now I'm going to do this. Undefined. Okay? It's the same as constructing the array with 7 empty position, because the length is just a property. But then if you try to access that array, for example, second array at position 9, you don't have anything. Okay? It's the same as whatever you try to access, you have undefined inside. So don't trust the length of the array, thinking that if the length is 7, it means that there are 7 values inside. Okay? If you read that value, verify that the value has what you want, or you suppose that there is at that position. So let's see also some of the functions that you can use for array, and let's initialize once again the array like this, but let's change some number here. So we have seen the length property, but we can also transform all the data that we have inside an array into a string. Let's say that we want all these values glued together and then passed into a function. Let's say var string array is equal, we can call second array with the function join. That is the contrary of a split. You put join and then you say, I want to join the members of the array with this string. I don't know, maybe comma. Like implode, yes, like implode in PHP. And then if you take a look at string array, you have that. And then if you take string array and you do the opposite, you put the split, then you have an array like you have created it. Okay. Now let's explore some more interesting function from array. One other option if you want to add a new element to the array. There are different ways to add a new element to the array. One is with a method. Who knows a method to add something into an array? From Java, from other language, if you remember. Push. Okay, you can use push and put another value in the end. Can I push a string if the array was declared with numbers?
Yes.
Okay. Now if we take a look at second array, we see that we can have mixed value. Can I also do this second array dot test? No. First, I'm gonna do this one. Second array. My val equals test.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Let's say second array, and we have that. What about if let's see the length of this array. Now that we have number keys, numeric keys, and also string keys, so we can verify second array length, and it says sys. Now let's go into output also the cycle like before. So we have 6 as a length. So what would be the value at position 5? Now first let's run it. We have 4, position 0, 6, position 2, 4, 3, no. Chetri, pet, chest, now test, and that's all. It output test. Let's go down here. What about this test? It output only once test. So it went from here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements. So you missed this value. Why? Because the key is not numeric. So if you cycle that array, you're going with a for loop, you're going to see only the values that are in the numeric keys. This value, my val, you won't see it. So we have to use another type of cycle, another type of loop to see also this value. So I don't recommend using that kind of mixture for array. If you need this kind of value, key values, string keys, you can use, it's better to use an object. Okay, if you need array, use array only for numeric keys. If you need string keys, use objects. But we can also loop in another way we can loop this array in another way with the for, and then we put var, the name of the var, let's say key, and then we put in, and then the name of the array. The array is second array, and then we can put this code like here, and we can say alert second array, and then we pass the key. But we're going to see very strange things here. Okay, here. Okay, let's give it a try. We have the 4, 6, 4, 9. Test that is at position 5, and then test that belongs to my val. Okay, in this way we can have every value. Problem is that if you have inserted some different properties in the array as different keys, or in the main array, you could have every property of the array. So it can work like that. This type of for loop works like that also for objects, and we're gonna see that we can cycle an object like that, because an object doesn't have the property length, because an object doesn't have a key, a numeric keys. Okay, it could have numeric keys, but it's not usual. In the way that I can put now, I can read the value at position second array dot myval, and it works like an object. But I can't do this. Okay, that's an error. So if it's a numeric key, you always have to use the square bracket, and you put 0. But you can also have access to my val with the square brackets, and you put my val inside. Okay, you can access that value also as an object. But why? Because arrays inherits from the object, from the basic object, and that's why if you type, for example, this is not the lesson, but if you type this one here, prototype, you see all the functions that the main object of JavaScript has, and all objects that derive from this basic object would have access to these properties and functions. So that's why you can use some stuff that belongs to object from in array, because they inherit from object value. Then every time you create a different object from the basic object, you have different functionalities. Numbers have different functions, strings have different functions, but all of them have the basic function from object. But I always recommend to use numeric keys if you're using array. If you need string keys, use objects. As for JavaScript, the last version, there is this loop, also this loop for, I think, var, for example, value, and then you use of. Let me see if the syntax is like this, second array, and then you can output the value without accessing the key. Now you can alert the value. Okay? But this is JavaScript 2015. If you run this code in I don't know, in Windows 10, it doesn't work. So you have to go to can I use, to this website where you can see what you can use in your browser, etc. If I look for of, let's see if I can find it like this. One result, where is it? No, let's look just for two. Where is it? form validate. Because it's downsy. HTML, text, M3, no, it doesn't go here. For off. One result, let's see. No, it's not this one. But I think it's from Windows 11. Or if you go to the Mozilla MDN, the Mozilla Array functions. It's better I always go to the Mozilla example, because if there are a lot of examples, then you can also collaborate and put your own examples and things like that. Let's see if we go for the for off. Let me see if we find here for off for. So it shows here that the new methods that you can find in arrays, like entries, it gives you all the entries. This is a new method. Okay, if you click on that method, in the end it's going to show you which browser supports that. And you can see Chrome yes, Edge yes, so Explorer Edge, but not Explorer 11. Okay, so some, every, for, of are not supported. And the only way of using those new features is if you go to Babel like this. No Babel, JS. The other Babel was for languages. Here you can try out the new things. For example, you write in the latest version of JavaScript, and then you can transform into JavaScript 5. Okay, so if we declare here var, and if we want to use let, okay, this is the way of creating new variables in JavaScript version 6. We can call that. Let's say let r equals 2, 3, 4, whatever. Okay, and let's use. You can see it takes off let and put var, because it's transformed. Then let's use the for var value of r console.log value. Okay, and you see the whole thing that it has to add to simulate this for all. So this is the piece of JavaScript that you would copy and put in your script so that all browsers can support this for all. So you begin writing your JavaScript with the latest version, and then once the file is compiled, because you can do it from the command line, you can install Babel with Node.js, and Babel would listen for any changes, or you can do it with, I don't know, Grunt, or what's the name of the other that I use that I like most, not Grunt, but Gulp. You have all the packages, and every time you modify your JavaScript, Gulp is going to compile and transpile your JavaScript into the version that you say, okay, I want the latest version to be compiled into JavaScript 5, and then you would have all this stuff here. So Babel.js is a good way to try new things that are or were introduced with JavaScript 2015. Okay, so we can continue also from here, because we can write any code we want here. It's the same as JS Bean. JS Bean supports also JavaScript, the latest version. And of course, we have seen that Chrome also. So let's go back to, let's see, where was the screen here? And we were talking about array and these new functions that we could cycle the array. So I think the only thing to study from array are the functions that the array allows you to use. If you click the dot, you're going to see different methods like copies the entries. I told you that this one is a new method, so it's not supported for every browser. It means that you can put this function here and pass a function into this method, and that function would be executed for every method of the array. Or you can put also filter, for example, and you can filter this data. For example, you can say function, and if you use also JavaScript AX we can put anonymous arrow functions that we're going to see. You can put a function that would return true or false to know if the value has to be shown or not. So you can see, you can put, for example, v greater than 4, and there's no value greater than 4. Say second array, no value, so that's why it was empty. But if we put greater than 0, nothing. Why? Let's say filters like that. If you pass the function, or let's go to the console and say array filter, and let's first say function let's just first console log the v. No? Console.log, okay. Nothing. This is strange. Let's take a look at filter, because I have used it like that. So if you have any doubt, you come here, array, and then you click the property that you want to find. If we say filter, the filter method creates a new array, so it's written with all elements that pass the test implementation. So you can see here, there's the same thing, we're not returning. That's the problem. Okay, it's okay, but we have to return. Okay, it was this one. But the problem is with arrow function, it would work. With arrow function would be like this. So I was used to this. Okay. So this is the short syntax, and it works now because I'm used to arrow function. Arrow function, you don't put the keyword function that we're going to see. In this way, if there is only one expression, you don't have to return. But with the old way, we have to put return here. And in this way, we filter. If we put greater than 4, we only get this one. So it's very handy to have this filter function. And there are a lot of beautiful functions that you have here, like is array, from array, array of, every, fill, if you want to fill array with different values, find, if you want to find a value inside the array. This one is new one also. First, you would have to cycle the array, okay, or call the function map to see if there was a value inside, and then with find is easy. And now we have the for each. You remember that, I don't know if you used jQuery. jQuery supported this version for each, and then that function from jQuery was integrated into, yes, most of the functions that you see in JavaScript come from jQuery or from Lodash and some other libraries, and now are native. The advantage is if you use, for example, the small version of jQuery just to work, or Lodash to work with array and objects, is that they first verify if there is the native function. So in jQuery, if you use for each, if jQuery sees that your browser supports natively the for each method, is going to call the native one. It's not going to call the implementation of for each. So in that case, sometimes it's better to, and it's best to first learn how to use the pure JavaScript, and then you say, okay, now I'm ready, I can use some framework. Because most people begin with jQuery, and then when they have to pass to another framework or to pure JavaScript, they don't know how to program. But I don't have the function that does. Go to the documentation, take a look. Okay, there's array reduce. Array reduce, I love it because, for example, let's say that you have this array and you have to reduce it. You put array reduce, and the same thing, you pass a function, and the function is going to receive two values, the whole value and the new value. It means the last operation you did with that value is carried accumulate. It's accumulated. For example, let's say that we want to sum all the values. I can put last value, I don't know, a new value, and then I return here, return L plus N. And we have concatenated because not all the values are numbers. But you can see that we can take every value and then put it together. So there are a lot of handy functions. If you, before writing your own, take a look at the documentation to see if there is a native one, okay? You come here, slice is very handy also because with a slice, you can take a slice of the array. So if you have second array, you say, I want to have a slice from 0 position to this position here. So you say, okay, var new array, and you can take a look that Chrome supports let. I'm going to explain you what let is for. Is var new array equals second array slice, and then from 0 till 5 new array, and you have this value. If you have any doubt, because sometimes I say, okay, but the second parameter is how many, or is it up to? You come to the documentation. Array slice, okay. Returns a shallow copy of a portion of an array into a new array object. Select from begin to end. Okay? It means that from this position to this position. Not included the end. Then if you want to include the element, you have to put +1. And then there is another function that is very handy, and it's called, let me see here. So we have the array shift. It's when you want to remove the array from an array and return that element, and we have array unshift. Okay, so we can put also, for example, second array put unshift, and I want to put a new element at the beginning. Let's say 0. Okay, if I put second array now, I have 0 at the first position. But if I say array shift 0, and then I put again, you see that we take off. If I say array shift, let's say 2, I see the 4. Okay, you pass the position and it's going to remove. And there's this new function that when you need to put some elements inside. Okay, let me see. You can take a look later on if you want. Reduce, we see. Reverse, if you need to reverse the value. And if you want to, for example, let's say that you have an array, but the keys are not ordered. You have 0, 3, 4 because you unshifted and took off values. You call array values, and you have a new array with the keys order. And that's very, very, very useful. So every time you need to do something with the array, take a look at the documentation and see if there is already a function that you can use, okay? Molto bene, fermiamo questa qua.